Hey, what's up guys, Tony here, and welcome to another episode of my V8 Supercar Mastery series. This is the week 5 practice problems at Suzuka, and like a majority of the tracks that I've already gone through, this is a track that I've run, I don't know, a handful of times in other series. The most notably though, the one that I've run it the most in is GT3. I ran one time with the Corvette. I don't remember what series that was from. And I want to say I ran it once with, I think it was Star Mazda. If it wasn't like an actual race, it was a practice. So as far as racing this place, primarily I've only raced it with the GT3. And specifically, I think it was the BMW and the roof. There's only 2 cars that I've actually tackled this car or this track with. So pretty much like all the other tracks that I've ever been to, there are GT3 tendencies that I had to actually work out to get a lap time that was competitive. And so even in GT3, I'm just not very competitive at all at this track. This is definitely by far like one of my least favorite tracks in the entire service. And it's so strange because I actually really do enjoy this track in other games like Gran Turismo, and I think it was in Forza when I played that, and I really like it. But I think for those games, the track and the car combinations were very forgiving, and for the weather and this car, it's really a real nightmare to drive. You know, there are things you just have to do if you want to make it around this track safely and quickly, which is not easy to do, I'll say that. So when I started out this week, I was running like 209s, 208s, and then Tim, who's way better at this track than I am, like in all cars, he was quickly running 206s, and then he plateaued at 205s. And then of course Ryan, who I've been racing with, he's hit like 205s, 204s, and I think he had a couple 203s, I think a low 203 as well, which is pretty impressive because the fastest laps that I've seen around here for this week were like 201s, and those were set by, you know, the top end V8 supercar guys. So the specific problems I'm having with this track is that the track surface is really slippery. The chicane here, or excuse me, the S-curves here, I have just never developed a good flow for them, and it's just one of those things I just can't quite do it. I think this would work great in open wheel, but for like touring cars and GT cars, they're just, I don't know, it's just not my flavor. I just there's something about it. And then going through Dunlap Corner there, it's particularly dangerous in this car because if you give it too much throttle, the car will just spin out. So I find myself in this really weird situation where it's not the first time that I've come into this, because throttle control is something that is essential with this car. Like if you don't know throttle control, you're in for a world of shit. You really need to understand and master, not to an expert level, but you just need to get to a level of proficiency that'll let you get around track without killing yourself. But throttle control is one of the most essential skills that you need to learn to drive this car successfully, and it comes into play like times 1,000 for this car and this track and the weather conditions. It's not the stickiest conditions ever, and I find myself like, a part of me likes it and doesn't like it. It's really strange because the challenge aspect of it, the one thing that I talked about almost 2 seasons ago now, which a lot of people like this car because it is challenging, and so that it's highly rewarding to master this car, to get it under control. And that was something that I didn't really understand until I started driving the car full time. And now there's great pride in being able to get this car around the track, and especially if you could do it at a decent or at least a competitive pace. You know, there's a little bit of pride involved. And so what you just saw right there, I think that was my very first 205, and it happened to be a really low 205. And I'll be honest with you, I was totally blown away because I was just like, you know, I was running 206s, you know, the first 3 or 4 laps. So I was like, okay, well, here I'm 206. Like, it's nice to hit a 205.9, and then I go and hit a 205.1. I was like, what? And so for whatever reason, that 205.1 and whatever I did that last lap you guys saw, it continued. And so from this point forward, unless, you know, I just happened to screw up royally like I did a couple of times in the race that I posted, the league race that I posted, I was sticking in the oh no, sorry, I wasn't running 205s in the league race, my bad. That's the race that I had yesterday, on Thursday, I mean. And so I hit 205s majority of the time. And so from this point on, this practice session, I just hit 205s. And what usually happens, this is my failing as a driver, is that once I get close to like the next rung, so like 204s, all I want to do is hit a 204. So I keep driving harder and harder and harder and trying to push the envelope to hit a 204. Even if it's a 204.999, I want that 204. And what happens is you drive slower and slower and slower. So I had to eventually dial it back and work on consistency. And I actually ended up around, surprising for me, because inconsistency is one of the things that I constantly talk about with this car. Like, I'm inconsistent as a driver in this car. I just, you know, my lap times are all over the place. And so I was running on average during the back end of this practice session right in the 205.3s to 205.6s thereabouts. Sometimes hit 207s. You know, maybe I might hit a 205.1. But generally the laps were falling within this, you know, 4-5 tenths of a second range. And it was nice to be consistent for once, especially on a track that I don't like. I openly don't like this track. Like, I can't even explain to you how bad I don't like this track. I almost skipped the official week. After I ran the league race, I was just like, nope, not going to do it. But what I did is I asked Tim for his setup, because he had a setup that I felt was pretty solid. I was using a setup that I got from the forums and from the GRA forums, and it just wasn't working for me. So when I asked Tim for the setup, I plugged his setup in, and I ran the first 4 laps about 206.5, and I was like, well, you know, it's a marked improvement because I'm running, you know, in the mid 206s, and I'm not running the low 207s to high 206s, and then I started cooking off 205. So I was like, okay, maybe the setup was it. And it probably wasn't. It probably was just me getting used to the track and getting used to the car. But still, there's something about when you're putting on that new setup, you're like, yes, this is it. This is the thing that's going to make me the better driver. And I don't know, I think it might have just been one of those mental, I don't know, like a mental boost. I was like, yes, okay, this car and this setup, this is the winning combination, so it works for me. But I did for sure figure out some things later on, and I employed those into my race pace. And I think it let me maintain speed and consistency. And so basically this week so far, has been difficult just because of the fact that, like I said, it's a track I don't really like. The weather was really, like, made the track surface really slippery. You know, the car is difficult to drive anyways, and it's really, really imperative that I was feathering the throttle, and I just was giving it the proper amount of throttle and not trying to overdrive the car. Because that's what Ryan had noticed before our league race. He was watching me run, and I don't know, I like to get my coaching in before a race and not right before, like, you know, like a practice day, so I can get a chance to like actually listen and put that into play and try it out. But when I'm practicing before a race and someone's trying to start coaching you and telling you to do things differently, it irritates me. And it irritated me when I was playing baseball. You know, like, game day is game day. You go in on game day, and however you ran or however you practice, that's how you're going to play, for better or worse. And that's just the way it goes. So and anyway, so I couldn't really properly get what he was trying to say, just because I was trying to get into like consistency. Like, I'm just going to run the way I'm going to run because this is the way I've been running. So anyways, I'm going to go wrap it up here. So look for the race video tomorrow, and hope you guys enjoy it. So as always, thanks for watching. Thanks for subscribing, and I shall talk to you guys later.